America's public enemy #1.
Drug use will no longer be tolerated.
Marijuana leads to money, leads to greed, leads to violence.
In 1971, US President Richard Nixon coined the phrase, the war on drugs. And for the 40-plus years since, it's been the goal of politicians around the world to destroy the trade in illegal narcotics. But in this series of videos, we're going to show you how the biggest victims of the war on drugs are not necessarily the people who produce and sell them, but the very people the war on drugs was meant to protect. And that is you. Since Nixon's announcement, each subsequent president followed in line with the war on drugs. Harsher sentences were rolled out in the 70s. President Reagan really ramped up the spending, convicting and mandatory minimum sentence in the 80s. And under Bill Clinton, 3 strikes laws were introduced on a national level. And the number of people in prison because of drugs, even for minor offences, has really shot up. Between the 1920s and the 1960s, about 1 in 1,000 people in the US were incarcerated, and it stayed at a pretty constant level. But in the 1970s, that number started to go up. In the 1980s, that number started going up even faster. It went up so far that by 2008, the number was closer to 1 in 100 people in prison. There are now more than 2.3 million people in prison in the US, and that number's 6 times higher than it was in 1972. To put that in perspective, the US has around 5% of the world's population, but 25% of the world's prison population. And a large part of that is to do with the war on drugs. Some analysts say that's because the war on drugs is more interested in segregating and punishing offenders than educating them. And so the cycle goes on. It doesn't improve society, it doesn't keep crime down, it doesn't rehabilitate or reform, but it does carry on costing you more and more money. So it does beg the question, who does this really benefit? Well, here's one of those peculiarities of the kind of corporatism you see in the States. Prisons are big businesses, and the biggest of those businesses are the Corrections Corporation of America. Not only do corporations like the CCA campaign for more prisons, promising 90% occupation rates, but they also lobby government for harsher laws and longer sentences to generate more inmates. And here's one example. On Halloween in 2012, in a place called Casa Grande in Arizona, employees of the CCA put a local high school in lockdown while they did a drug sweep. That's a private prison company going into an educational establishment with the hope that they'll find people in possession of drugs. And that is who really benefits. The war on drugs discriminates along lines of both skin colour and money. Recent figures show that African Americans make up 13% of the US population. However, they comprise 45% of people in prison for drugs violations. And since Ronald Reagan introduced mandatory minimum sentences, federal drug sentences have been 49% higher for black people than white. Now that disparity is partly down to the actual laws and partly down to the way that they're enforced. Laws like the 1986 Anti-Drug Abuse Act. That stated that federal penalties for crack should be 100 times harsher than they are for powder cocaine. So possession of 1 gram of crack would get the same sentence as the possession of 100 grams of powder cocaine. The crack cocaine boom in the US happened in poor urban areas because crack is significantly cheaper, requires less of it, and gives a shorter, sharper high than powder. Unsurprisingly, this led to accusations that the law was racist, targeting minorities who were more likely to live in poor areas where crack is more prevalent. It wasn't until 2010 that this law was reformed, but sentences are still 18 times harsher for crack than they are for powder cocaine. Then there's the way they're enforced. Just recently, New York City's stop and search policy was declared unconstitutional because it specifically targeted minorities. But it's a nationwide problem. According to the Drugs Policy Alliance, African Americans and Latinos are more likely to be stopped, searched, arrested, convicted and imprisoned for drugs than white people. They call it a system of racial control as profound as Jim Crow era segregation. But it's not just along race lines. Under President Clinton's, there were laws that hit the poor particularly hard and could create what some analysts have called a permanent underclass. The Welfare Reform Act meant that if you were convicted of a drug felony, you would lose your right to financial assistance, including food stamps, for the rest of your life. He also introduced the Drug-Free Student Loans Act. That meant that students who'd been convicted of a drug offence would either be temporarily or permanently ineligible for federal college loans and grants. That means that drugs law convicts who don't have the money, can't afford to go to college, and are pretty much consigned to being poor. And it doesn't stop there. A drugs conviction can affect people's ability to get a job, can deny them child custody, voting rights, business loans and even public housing. And they can be stigmatized for the rest of their life instead of being helped to turn their life around. But if the fact that it's criminalising people for minor offences and helping to perpetuate an increasingly unequal society doesn't get to you, how about the economic argument? On a state and federal level combined, the US spends $40 billion a year on the war on drugs. In total, they've spent more than $1 trillion. Just think about that. That is $1 trillion spent when they could be making money on taxation. About 3/4 of the domestic spending goes on catching and punishing users and dealers. That's compared to about 1/6 that's spent on treatment. And that's despite the fact that there's a mountain of evidence that shows that treatment is much more economical.
Dear America, if you want to stop racism, tear down the drug war, not statues. We cannot change the future by trying to erase the past. Tearing down a statue is not a solution to racism. Ending the drug war is. By Matt Agorist, August 15, 2017. On Monday, protesters reacting to the violence in Charlottesville over the weekend brought a ladder and some rope to North Carolina and tore down a near-century-old statue of a Confederate soldier. Unsurprisingly, nothing changed. However, the Durham Police Department and the Durham County Sheriff's Office announced that they will be seeking criminal charges for those involved in the destruction of the statue. Watching people wage violence against their fellow human in the name of protecting or tearing down some arbitrary government artifact is as disheartening as it is frustrating. The future cannot be changed by attempting to erase the past. A statue holds no magical power to make people racists. If anything, the monuments to former racists serve as reminders that the state can and always will be open to the influence of bigotry, and only the state has the power to enforce racism. An ignorant racist is exactly that. However, if society grants that ignorant racist a political position or a badge and a gun, this ignorant racist now has power over you. Removing or keeping a piece of concrete will never change this. Jim Crow laws weren't overturned because people went around town tearing down statues. Racist government laws were brought to an end because people refused to obey them. Had Rosa Parks used her time and energy lobbying to take down a statue instead of disobeying a racist law, rest assured Browder v. Gale, which ruled that segregated buses were unconstitutional, would have never happened. Advertisement. Had the civil rights movement in the 1950s not organized the Montgomery bus boycott, rest assured, desegregation would have taken much longer. Society has the amazing ability to force positive change through nonviolent and non-destructive means. However, all too often, we let emotions rule our thoughts and take to yelling and fighting in the streets and destroying property. This only serves to create more divide and empower the ranks of the racists. Read more. Dear Donald Trump, you can't fight the opiate epidemic without legal cannabis. If we really want to put the brakes on a racist system, fighting with other citizens, even if they are devout racists, will never work. Boycotts, refusal of service, shaming, exposing, these are the tools we as citizens have against other citizens who are spreading hate and racism. One amazing private solution to racism actually just happened on Tuesday in Washington. Richard Spencer, the ostensible leader of the white supremacists, was forced to hold his press conference in his own house because businesses refused to allow him to rent their hotels. This campaign of public shaming and refusal of service is far more effective than tearing down a statue or attempting to use the government to ban hate speech. But what do we do when the state is perpetuating a racist system and prolonging the suffering of minorities? Again, the answer to that question is not to tear down a statue, but to realize where the power of this racism rests. In America, the area of government that is most responsible for maintaining a racist system, allowing racist actors to oppress their targets with impunity, and perpetuating the suffering and plight of millions through the persecution of morally innocent individuals, is the war on drugs. Without a doubt, the war on drugs fuels the racist system by targeting minorities and the poor. It serves to increase interactions between police, who are often caught joining the force to act out their racist desires, and the citizens. The drug war, from the police departments to the court systems, unequivocally targets and punishes minorities harder for the same victimless crimes for which their white counterparts receive slaps on the wrist. Read more. United, Black gun owners protect white-owned business during Ferguson riots. As TFTP reported last year, a scathing report in Harper's Magazine, written by Dan Baum, set the record straight and relieved all doubt over the intentions of the drug war. John Daniel Ehrlichman, counsel and domestic policy chief to President Richard Nixon, came clean on the real reason behind the war on drugs to criminalize blacks and hippies. According to Baum, he tracked down Ehrlichman in 1994 at his engineering firm in Atlanta, Georgia. You want to know what this was really all about? Ehrlichman bluntly asked Baum of the war on drugs. The Nixon campaign in 1968, and the Nixon White House after that, had two enemies, the anti-war left and black people. You understand what I'm saying? We knew we couldn't make it illegal to be either against the war or black, but by getting the public to associate the hippies with marijuana and blacks with heroin, and then criminalizing both heavily, we could disrupt those communities. We could arrest their leaders, raid their homes, break up their meetings, and vilify them night after night on the evening news. Did we know we were lying about the drugs? Of course we did. To this day, the racist intentions behind the war on drugs serve to further oppress black communities. The war on drugs is still creating criminals out of otherwise innocent individuals who were caught in possession of arbitrary substances, removing their opportunity for employment by giving them criminal records, and guaranteeing a difficult future within the working class. It is no coincidence that the ACLU refers to the drug war as the new Jim Crow. Read more. State denies the people's will, butchers cannabis law that won popular vote for Big Pharma. As Graham Boyd wrote in 2001, in a report in NACLA, the war on drugs subjects the United States to much of the same harm, with much of the same economic and ideological underpinnings, as slavery itself. Just as Jim Crow responded to emancipation by rolling back many of the newly gained rights of African Americans, the drug war is again replicating the institutions and repressions of the plantation. And like slavery and Jim Crow, the drug war garners appalling levels of support. Each has its own rhetoric, each its own claims to unassailable legitimacy. The brutality of slavery was justified on economic and paternalistic grounds. Jim Crow pretended that separate but equal treatment sufficed, even as blacks faced daily lynchings and every form of overt discrimination. The drug war claims morality and protection of children as its goals, while turning a blind eye to the racial injustice it promotes. And with all three systems of oppression, much of society sits idly by, accepting the rhetoric that later will seem so unbelievably corrupt. We will one day understand that the war on drugs was a war on people and communities. If we really want to deal a blow to this racist system, we must strike the root. The drug war is one such root. Until we eliminate the cause of this strife, tearing down all the statues in the world will do nothing. Until we realize that we are financing our own oppression and refuse to support the government programs that keep us in the days of Jim Crow, the tyranny will remain. It is high time we realize this real solution to this real problem before the entire country is so divided that we enter a new American Civil War.
Hey Charlotte County, this is Charlotte County COPWATCH, and I've found that I had to make a change this ending on my videos, letting you know about the channel and fair use laws, you know, how we can report on other people's reporting and how it's good, how it's bad, etc. But you guys can look it up yourself. It is legal. It's in there. But like I've told you before, that I've been cut off from making money on YouTube for 4 years. It's really weird, bizarre, but they cut the money off, but they said you can keep the channel, and now YouTube makes all the money. And if you get bored, plug it into Social Blade website, and you'll see that they are making a huge amount off the site. Right now it's at 63 million views, 53,000 subscribers, almost 3 million views a month. You know, trying to wake people up, and I make nothing. In fact, I got a customer that's ex-congressman. He said if I could ever find a lawyer, sue YouTube on it. But because this is nuts. 4 hours a day, and to save America. You know, but at the same time, it's worth it. Look at what our founding fathers did. They died for this country. So, but getting back to the money part, this is why I'm redoing the video. Is my dream of everyone giving $1, and it's going to be $53,000 a year, or if they did Patreon, which you know, can be monthly. That is not working. That'd be great if it did. Nothing is perfect. And I appreciate the people that do donate, you know, what they can on PayPal. And there again, I'm letting you guys know that is not much. It is, you know, monthly is, oh my god. So anyways, yes, you cannot live on it. It's very, very, very low amount. But the dollar things, I do appreciate that. But when I first said everybody give $1, that's not working. I'm just I'm just letting you guys know it's, yeah, that dream. Everybody gives $1. 53,000 subscribers, it's not working. So yes, if you can give more than that, you know, I appreciate it. Like I said, you know, I'm in a unique situation where, you know, we're already debt free, and I'm not rich, but with the little business that we have, I am able to do what I am able to do 45 hours a day, you know, letting you guys know what's going on. In 4 years, I've did the whole thing myself. 12,000 videos on there. I literally get emails where people are like, holy crap, I never knew it was this bad. And it is this bad, and it's getting worse every day because we have the internet, we have cell phones, we have cameras everywhere now, and it's just disgusting what's going on. And then, as you guys know too, we got Trump, we got Jeff Sessions doing a war on drugs, and now he wants to go after the forfeiture laws again. It's just unfreaking real. So if you can give more than that dream of everybody giving $1, yeah, that old video, that's not working. They're not, they're just not. So anyways, if you can give more than that dream is not working. Hardly anybody is giving. There you go. So that's why I'm remaking the video. If you can give more than that, that would be great. And there again, like I said, the Patreon's there. There is some people on there that are starting to give, but there again, it's very, very low. And like I said, I don't want to get rich off of that. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing because, you know, it's still so stinking corrupt. It's not even funny. My court case that I'm going to be paying out of my pocket myself with Charlotte County's coming up. They illegally looked me up and then posted all my information on LEOAFFAIRS website. They basically doxed me, however you want to say that. I forget what the word is, and they outed me, man. And that information on that site went out to 500 sheriffs, deputies, people that work at the jail, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, it is very, very scary, but we're going to do a federal case, 1983 case, violating freedom of speech. We have 17 cameras in the house now. We got 2 cameras in the car. I always carry a camera plus a cell phone. A lot of people are highly recommending I get a vest now. If I could, if the wife would let me, I would run for sheriff. We are trying to push the thing nationwide right now. Where just to mix it up and to get the topics out there is register to run for sheriff, NPA, no party affiliation, as a write-in, and that is completely free, and you can participate in the elections. And there's a lot of stuff. We got a guy, James McLinnis in Pinellas County, Tampa, who almost won. He experienced the corruption himself. The story is unbelievable. Look him up. It's mind-blowing what they did. It pissed him off. He is very, very smart. He has way more money than I did. He ran for sheriff at the last 3 months last year in 2016 and almost won. He got all of the black vote. And the reason why he did that is because he ran on, I will not bust, we're in Florida, I will not bust anybody for weed anymore unless it's an ungodly huge amount, like pounds. And then he also ran on no more victimless crimes, no more of this freaking road pirate bull crap. And then he was going to cut the budget by 30%. And when you think about that, you can. If you stop the road pirates, you can get rid of a bunch of people. Gone. So, the wife has been saying, yes, I can, yes, I can't. So I don't know. We're trying to find somebody that can do it because I am busy doing this anyways. But, so I'm making a video, like I said, that $1 a month from everybody, you know, for 53,000 subscribers, that is not working. I'm just letting you guys know. Absolutely give way more than $1 a month. If you can, I appreciate anything. By the way, remember too, when you give that, PayPal takes like freaking 15 to 20%, so it's even worse than that. But, and there again, like I'm letting you guys know, it's way, what I get is very, very low. Appreciate it, but it is very, very low. Can't live on it. I'm just, you know, I'm working, and that's what I'm working on. And that court case is going to cost a buttload of money. That's federal court. Just the filing fees and the depositions that we're going to be doing with this corrupt cop. So there's another reason to give. We are going to be doing a deposition with this very corrupt. He was in a drug squad. He is a bad guy. He's on steroids. We heard steroids are rampant here. That's why their attitude is so bad. And we are going to get him on video, and it will be on YouTube. So that case alone is $5,000 just to bring it to court, and that's my money out of my pocket. So there's another reason to give, and give way more than $1 if you can. So keep that in mind. This is the new video, and I see, God, I talk a lot. It's already 7 minutes, but had to make it just to let you know that $1 a month from everybody is not working. They're not doing it. So if you can give more than that, please. So thanks. Keep it up. Share, like, subscribe, tell your friends, send me your videos on corruption, and I'll post it.